Welcome to the Protagonist Pub. My name is Tammy, and this is where characters gather. And today they are gathered for the June monthly tag. And how is it already June? I say this, and it's the 25th of April as I'm filming it, but I know that when June 1st comes, I'm going to be wondering how it's already so late in the year. June is a less busy month for holidays, which is nice after how full April and May have been, so that's nice. There are more books as a result. Some of my favorite days are in June, so let's do the monthly holidays first. First up, it is Audiobook Appreciation Month. And I have a deep and abiding love for audiobooks. And I listen to them 9 times out of 10, probably more than 9 times out of 10, probably 95% of the time, on just regular, normal speed. I have been an Audible member since 2001. I remember way back in the day when you had to listen to an Audible book on an Audible device, not an iPad or any of those devices. It had to be an Audible device. I have hundreds of audiobooks. So much like I do hidden on my Kindle, I think I'm going to do hidden on my Audible account starting in June, and just go over some of my favorites from my audiobook collection. And that'll come in June. June is also National Rose Month. My roses are in full bloom. I will insert a couple of pictures here. I need to go do some weeding after I get this filmed because it has rained this week. We've gotten close to 2 inches of rain in a couple of days, and all of the weeds have come storming back to life after they, just got pulled less than 2 weeks ago. So Mother Nature is reminding me to go outside and remove the weeds. Hello, Fireball. You came to say hi? It's a good girl. Okay. June is also the month of the Sacred Heart, if you are Catholic. And it is International Surf Music Month. I grew up in Southern California. Surf music was an actual, normal, everyday part of my life. And I have a deep and abiding love for it, especially Beach Boys. Can't really consider Jimmy Buffett surf music, although I can certainly make that argument. Love him too. So that is a no-brainer for me. Let's talk about that. Okay, that's enough. No, you are very loved and you know it. Stop being needy. Okay, let's talk about the weekly holidays for June of note. First up, it is National Flag Week, the 9th through the 15th. It is Step Parent Week, the 1st through the 7th. And it is Lightning Safety Awareness Week, the 16th through the 22nd. And we've had a fireball. A lot of lightning so far this year, so Lightning Safety Awareness Week is very timely. Okay, so let's start on the actual day holidays celebrated in June. First up, is June 1st, which is National Prairie Day. And I have a very deep love of the wide open spaces and the never-ending sky of the prairie. Fireball was born in South Dakota. We call her our prairie dragon. Huh. Yeah. You're Mama and Daddy's prairie dragon. Yeah. So I have a bunch of prairie books to recommend. So let's get to it. First up is a book that has been on my radar for a very long time, and I haven't picked it up. Not that long. I'm thinking of a different book. Okay, this one was published in 2016, and I want to read it. It is News of the World by Paulette Giles. I was thinking of shipping news. Anyway, this is News of the World. I will read you the back. In the aftermath of the Civil War, an aging itinerant newsreader agrees to transport a young captive of the Kiowa back to her people in this exquisitely rendered, morally complex, multi-layered novel of historical fiction that explores the boundaries of family, responsibility, honor, and trust. In the wake of the Civil War, Captain Jefferson Kyle Kidd travels through northern Texas, giving live readings from newspapers to paying audiences hungry for news of the world. An elderly widower who has lived through 3 wars and fought in 2 of them, the captain enjoys his rootless, solitary existence. In Wichita Falls, he is offered a $50 gold piece to deliver a young orphan to her relatives in San Antonio. 4 years earlier, a band of Kiowa raiders killed Joanna's parents and sister. Sparing the little girl, they raised her as one of their own. Recently rescued by the U.S. Army, the 10-year-old has once again been torn away from the only home she knows. Their 400-mile journey south through unsettled territory and unforgiving terrain proves difficult and at times dangerous. Joanna has forgotten the English language, tries to escape at every opportunity, throws away her shoes, and refuses to act civilized. Yet, as the miles pass, the 2 lonely survivors tentatively begin to trust each other, forming a bond that marks the difference between life and death in this treacherous land. Arriving in San Antonio, the reunion is neither happy nor welcome. The captain must hand Joanna over to an aunt and uncle she does not remember, strangers who regard her as an unwanted burden. A respectable man, Captain Kidd is faced with a terrible choice: abandon the girl to her fate or become, in the eyes of the law, a kidnapper himself. I just think this sounds amazing. Okay, next up is a book by an author I have not read, who I'm very interested in reading, and specifically, I didn't realize he had written this book, and I am fascinated. So this is Black Hills by Dan Simmons, and obviously Black Hills of South Dakota, and it is by the same man, just double checking. South Dakota is one of those places in life, or in the country, I love beyond words. It is sparsely populated. It is gorgeous. It is never-ending sky. He's okay. He's allowed to work in his yard. He doesn't need your permission. So, I'll read you the description. When Pahasapa, a young Sioux warrior, counts coup on General George Armstrong Custer as Custer lays dying on the battlefield at Little Bighorn, the legendary general's ghost enters him, and his voice will speak to him for the rest of his event-filled life. Seamlessly weaving together the stories of Pahasapa, Custer, and the American West, Dan Simmons depicts a tumultuous time in the history of both Native and white Americans, haunted by Custer's ghost, and also by his ability to see into the memories and the futures of legendary men like Sioux War Chief Crazy Horse. Paha Sapa's long life is driven by a dramatic vision he experienced as a boy in his people's sacred Black Hills. In August of 1936, a dynamite worker on the massive Mount Rushmore project, Paha Sapa plans to silence his ghost forever and reclaim his people's legacy to Mount Rushmore to dedicate the Jefferson face. I have been to Mount Rushmore multiple times. I have been to the Crazy Horse Monument. Mount Rushmore is beautiful and it is moving, but it is also last time we were there, wickedly overpriced, not incredibly clean, and just jam-packed with tourists. And on the same day, we went to the Crazy Horse Monument, which is right down the road. It is a privately funded monument. I will, if I can find them, I will insert pictures of both here. And it's still under construction. It's been under construction for a very long time. And it is incredible. It is beautifully done. There are museums attached to the monument itself. I highly, highly recommend going to see Crazy Horse Monument if you are in South Dakota. So, okay. And how could one talk about the prairie and not talk about The Little House in the Big Woods by Laura Ingalls Wilder? I devoured this entire series when I was a child. I highly recommend them. They are fantastic. They're easy, approachable books. I'm not going to read the description because by now I assume most of you have read them. But, yes. Absolutely. And last year went to De Smet, South Dakota, which holds the which is the point that the house for Little House on the Prairie and stuff is in De Smet. So we have not been there yet. Hopefully someday we will go. Okay, up next would be the first book in the Great Plains trilogy by Willa Cather. That is Oh Pioneers. And I will read you the blurb. And I'm not sure if I've read this. Oh Pioneers, written in 1913, was Willa Cather's first great novel, and to many it remains her unchallenged masterpiece. No other work of fiction so faithfully conveys both the sharp physical realities and the mythic sweep of the transformation of the American frontier, and the transformation of the people who settled it. Cather's heroine is Alexandra Bergson, who arrives on the wind-blasted prairie of Hanover, Nebraska as a girl and grows up to make it a prosperous farm. But this archetypal success story is darkened by loss, and Alexandra's devotion to the land may come at the cost of love itself. At once a sophisticated pastoral and a prototype for later feminist novels, O Pioneers is a work in which triumph is inextricably enmeshed with tragedy. A story of people who do not claim a land so much as they submit to it, and in the process become greater than they were. And I need to read this, obviously. Wind-blasted prairie is a very perfect description of what the prairie can feel like at times. Next up is an author I have not read. This is Christian historical fiction. This is A Promise for Ellie by Lorraine Snelling. And I love the cover. The cover is everything. I will read you the blurb. Ellie Wold can't wait to graduate from high school. She and Andrew Borkland have been waiting to get married since forever. And in June, they will finally wed. When Andrew announces they have to postpone the wedding, she's disappointed, but it takes it in stride, and there must be a good reason, or Andrew's pa wouldn't ask it of them. But Andrew is angry and can't understand why Ellie isn't upset too, especially when they'd been planning to marry up ever since they were in grade school. Disgruntled, he works out his frustration and stubborn determination to finish building their barn and mail-order house, working himself to exhaustion. But just when the new house is nearly finished, an unthinkable tragedy occurs. Throwing aside the vow he made to Ellie, Andrew seeks revenge. As their plans unravel, it looks as if their love may not survive. Is this the end of their dream? It is the first book in the Daughters of Blessing series, and I haven't read anything by her, but this one sounds fantastic. Doesn't it, Prairie Dragon? Doesn't it, Prairie Dragon? Okay. Next up would be Where the Coyotes Howl by Sandra Dallas. I love this cover. I love this cover. This is historical fiction, and I will read you the blurb. Except for the way they loved each other, they were just ordinary, everyday folks. Just ordinary. 1916. The two-street town of Wallace is not exactly what Ellen Webster had in mind when she accepted a teaching position in Wyoming. But within a year's time, she's fallen in love, both with the high plains and with a handsome cowboy named Charlie Bacon. Life is not easy in the flat, brown corner of the state, where winter blizzards are unforgiving and the summer heat relentless. But Ellen and Charlie face it all together, and their relationship growing stronger with each shared success and each deeply felt tragedy. Ellen finds purpose in her work as a rancher's wife and in her bonds with the other women settled on the prairie. Not all of them are so lucky as to have loving husbands. Not all came to Wallace willingly, and not all of them can survive the cruel seasons. But they look out for each other, share their secrets, help one another in times of need, and the needs are great and constant. The only city to speak of, Cheyenne, is miles away, making it akin to the Wild West in rural Wallace. In the end, it is not the trials of Ellen and Charlie faced together that make them remarkable, but their love for one another that endures through it all. If I had to pick a second state it would be Wyoming. Again, it's vast, unending prairie, and it's never-ending sky, and yeah, you can tell I kind of love that little section of the country deeply. I do. Okay, next up would be another Christian historical romance. That would be The Lady's Maid by Susan Page Davis. And this is the first book in the Prairie Dreams series. Lady Anne Stone's uncle is the new Earl of Stoneford. The only problem is he disappeared into the American West, with only her personal maid, Elsie Finster, as a determined chaperone, and embarks upon a quest to find David Stone. First stop, St. Louis, where the ladies discover their quarry went further west 5 years ago. Resolute in their mission, Annie and Elsie join a wagon train to to Oregon. But will their prairie adventure turn into a Wild West nightmare? Scout Eb Bentley, initially skeptical that the women can survive the journey, soon finds himself falling for the determined, charming, beautiful Elsie. Can he keep her alive long enough to win her love? Or will the lady succumb to the riggers, ruffians, and rustlers along the trail? And 2 more prairie books. This is another Christian historical romance. It is the first book in the Town Called Hope series. And that is Prairie Rose by Catherine Palmer, another author I have never read. Hope and love blossom on the untamed prairie as a young woman searching for a place to call home happens upon a Kansas homestead during the 1860s. A Town Called Hope. The inspiring series set in the post-Civil War Kansas is the creation of the best-selling romance writer Catherine Palmer. In the fast-paced Prairie Rose, impulsive 19-year-old Rosie Miller takes a job caring for the young son of a widowed homesteader, Seth Hunter, in order to escape the orphanage in which she was raised. Rosie's naive view of love and her understanding of what it means to have a father in heaven are quickly put to the test. Afraid of being wounded again, Seth struggles to freely open his heart to hurting his son, to a woman's love, and to a father who will not abandon him. Together, Rosie and Seth must face the harsh uncertainties of prairie life, and the one man who threatens to destroy their happiness. Prairie Rose launches a series sure to satisfy readers who expect solid biblical values and a wholesome, exhilarating romance. And it is under 300 pages. Okay, last up is the first book in the Canadian West series by Jeanette Oak. That is When Calls the Heart. I have not read anything by her, and I have not watched the Hallmark series. Nothing in her cultured East Coast upbringing prepared Elizabeth for a teaching position on the Canadian frontier. Yet, despite the constant hardships, she loves the children in her care. Determined to do the best job she can and fighting to survive the harsh land, Elizabeth is surprised to find her heart softening towards a certain member of the Canadian Royal Mounted Police. I think that's all you need to know. It's Christian historical romance, and yeah, that'll be fun. Okay, up next would be the 2nd of June, and that is First Ladies Day. Okay, so it's time for First Ladies books, and as you can see, Fireball is extra needy today. Extra needy today. My love bug girl. Okay, Fireball. So, I have some electronic recommendations, and I pulled a bunch from my personal stash. So, let's do the electronic ones first, as I grab the laptop here. Okay. First up would be The President's Wife by Tracy Emerson Wood. I just picked this up on Kindle sale, and I will read you the back. Socialite Edith Bowling has been in no hurry to find a new husband since she was widowed, preferring to fill her days with good friends and travel. But the enchanting courting of President Woodrow Wilson wins Edith over, and she becomes the First Lady of the United States. The position is an uncomfortable one for the fiercely independent Edith, but she's determined to rise to the challenges of her new marriage. From the bloodthirsty press to the shadows of the First World War. Warming to her new role, Edith is soon indispensable to her husband's presidency. She replaces the staff that Woodrow finds distracting, discusses policy with him daily. Throughout the war, she encrypts top-secret messages, and despite lacking formal education, becomes an important advisor. When peace talks begin in Europe, she attends at Woodrow's side. But just as the critical fight to ratify the treaty to end the war and create a League of Nations in order to prevent another, Woodrow's always delicate health takes a dramatic turn for the worse. In her determination to preserve both his progress and his reputation, Edith all but assumes the presidency herself. Now Edith must contend with the demands of a tumultuous country, the secrets of Woodrow's true condition, and the potentially devastating consequences of her failure. At once sweeping and intimate, The President's Wife is an astonishing portrait of a courageous First Lady and the sacrifices she made to protect her husband and her country at all costs. I'm very interested in this book, obviously. I just purchased it. But at the same time, I have some thoughts about Edith Wilson. I will save those thoughts until I read the book. Okay, I bought this one, according to this, back in March because it was on sale. That is Mary, Mrs. Abraham Lincoln by Janice Cook Newman. It was published in 2007, at least on Kindle, and it is 640 pages. Mary Todd Lincoln is one of history's most misunderstood and enigmatic women. She was a political strategist, a supporter of emancipation, and a mother who survived the loss of 3 children and the assassination of her beloved husband. She also ran her family into debt, held seances in the White House, and was committed to an insane asylum, which is where Janice Cook Newman's debut novel begins. From her room in Bellevue Place, Mary chronicles her tempestuous childhood in a slave-holding Southern family and takes readers through the years after her husband's death, revealing the ebbs and flows of her passion and depression, her poverty and ridicule, and her ultimate redemption. I am very fascinated by this book. She is one of the most misunderstood first women, I think, in general. And yeah, I need to sit down and read that. Okay, the next book has almost no blurb, but it's available on Kindle Unlimited, and it is one of those that has, again, you never hear about this First Lady. That is The President's Lady, a novel about Rachel and Andrew Jackson. In this acclaimed biographical novel, it's by Irving Stone. Irving Stone brings to life the tender and poignant love story of Rachel and Andrew Jackson. Beyond any doubt, one of the great romances of all times, according to the Saturday Review of Literature. It was published in 1996. It is 345 pages. Okay. This one is another one I am very interested in. This is by Rita Mae Brown. This is Dolly. It was published in 1995. It is 409 pages. She had the president's ear and the nation's heart. She is the wife of the 4th president of the United States, a spirited charmer who adores parties, the latest French fashions, and the tender, brilliant man who is her husband. But while many love her, few suspect how complex Dolly Madison really is. Only in the pages of her diary, as imagined by novelist Rita Mae Brown, can Dolly fully reveal herself, and there we discover the real First Lady, impulsive, courageous, and wise. As she faces her harshest trial, in 1814, the United States is once again at war with mighty Britain, and her beloved James is the most hated man in America. From the White House receptions she gaily presides over to her wild escapades from a Washington under siege, Dolly gives us a legend made warmly human, For there never has been a first lady so tested, or one who came through the fire so brilliantly. Yeah, I need to read this. I definitely need to read this. Okay. Next up. This is the second book in the Women of History series. That is Washington's Lady by Nancy Moser, an author I have not read. It's available on Kindle Unlimited. I'm going to read you what's available. Known for moving first-person novels of Nannerl Mozart, Jane Austen, and Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Nancy Moser now brings to life the loves and trials of the First Lady of the United States. When a dapper, young George Washington comes into her life, Martha Custis is a young widow with 2 young children. Their love and loyalty toward each other and the new nation they fight for lasts a lifetime and is an inspiration even now, after 250 years. And Washington's Lady was a Christie Awards finalist. It was published in 2016. It is 360 pages, and it is available on Kindle Unlimited. And another Georgia and Martha story. That is Mount Vernon Love Story, a novel of George and Martha Washington by Mary Higgins Clark. It was published in 2002. It's on Kindle Unlimited as well. It is 224 pages. Formerly published as Aspire to the Heavens, the popular author's first novel follows the story of George Washington from the time he steps down from the presidency to return with Martha to his beloved Mount Vernon home, a period during which the couple shares a renewal of feelings from their marriage's early years. This one's short. It's available on Kindle Unlimited, and I'm definitely interested. Okay. I have not read this, but I want to read this. That is The First Ladies by Marie Benedict. It's 400 pages. It was published in 2023. And I love this cover. I will read you the blurb. A novel about the extraordinary partnership between First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt and civil rights activist Mary McLeod Bethune. An unlikely friendship that changed the world. The daughter of formerly enslaved parents, Mary McLeod Bethune refuses to back down as white supremacists attempt to thwart her work. She marches on as an activist and an educator, and as her reputation grows, she becomes a celebrity, revered by the titans of business and recognized by U.S. presidents. Eleanor Roosevelt herself is awestruck and eager to make her acquaintance. Initially drawn together because of their shared belief in women's rights and the power of education, Mary and Eleanor become fast friends, confiding their secrets, hopes, and dreams, and holding each other's hands through tragedy and triumph. When Franklin Delano Roosevelt is elected president, the two women begin to collaborate more closely, particularly as Eleanor moves toward her own agenda separate from FDR, a consequence of the devastating discovery of her husband's secret love affair. Eleanor becomes a controversial first lady for her outspokenness, particularly on civil rights. And when she receives threats because of her strong ties to Mary, it only fuels the women's desire to fight together for justice and equality. This is the story of two different, yet equally formidable, passionate, and committed women, and the way in which their singular friendship helped to form the foundation for the modern civil rights movement. Okay. Okay. I believe we're now into my physical books, correct? Let me double check. Yep. Okay. Physical books. Let's dive into those. Okay. I pulled one nonfiction, And that is Dearest Friend. This is written by Lynn Whitty. And it is obviously a life of Abigail Adams. And we all know she is my favorite First Lady ever. So I am hoping this is better than my last biography of Abigail Adams, which was a disappointment. So I'll read you the flap. Dear Friend is the biography of Abigail Adams, the unschooled minister's daughter, who became the most influential woman in revolutionary America. That is all I need to know. Yeah, this needs to come out from where it's been so that I can slowly work my way through that. I'm not going to read any more of that description because that was enough. Okay. Let's try to intermingle the vast quantity. I say vast quantity. There's 3 Civil War books. First up would be Mrs. Lincoln's Rival by Jennifer Shiverini. I'm going to murder that name every time. So I will read you the interior of this one. This one came from Montreal. Kate Chase Sprague was born in 1840 in Cincinnati, Ohio, and was the second daughter of the second wife of a devout but ambitious lawyer. Her father, Solomon P. Chase, rose to prominence in the antebellum years and was appointed Secretary of the Treasury in Abraham Lincoln's cabinet, while aspiring to even greater heights. Thrice widowed, Chase found himself at a disadvantage without a wife to host social gatherings crucial to influence building. Beautiful and intelligent, regal and entrancing, young Kate Chase stepped into this role, establishing a salon at the Chase home that launched a father-daughter partnership bent on achieving the presidency. For her efforts, the Washington Star declared her the most brilliant woman of her day. None outshine her. None, that is, but Mary Todd Lincoln. Though Mrs. Lincoln and her young rival held much in common, political acumen, love of country, and a resolute determination to help the men they loved achieve greatness, they could never be friends. For the success of one could only come at the expense of the other. While Kate Chase married William Sprague, the wealthy governor of Rhode Island, it was widely regarded as the pinnacle of Washington society weddings. President Lincoln was in attendance. The First Lady was not. The intertwining public lives of these 2 women never failed to inspire headlines. But the true and lasting influence of each wrought in private makes the New York Times best-selling author skilled telling it for an even more fascinating story. Mrs. Lincoln's Rival is an astute and lively novel of the politics of state, whether enacted in the houses of government or the family homes of its leaders, set against the vibrant backdrop of Civil War era Washington. Yeah. I need to read this. I got this from Better World Books. It is, that's the author's note, 412 pages. Yeah, okay. Tammy needs to read that. I say that all the time. To the surprise of no one, Barbara Hamilton. Abigail Adams Mystery. This is the second book in the trilogy. This is A Masked Man. We all know I love this trilogy. I'm not going to read the back because it is the second book in a trilogy. I will read this book this year. In fact, I'm going to set it aside for June and make it a point to read this in June. And if you do not see this on my June TBR when that comes out, please, if you remember, flag me in the comments and say, hey, you said you were going to read this. Yeah, this one takes place in 1774, 10 weeks after the Boston Tea Party. Okay, that's all I needed to know. Okay, so 2 more Civil War books. Next up would be Mrs. and they're all by the same author. This is Mrs. Lincoln's Dressmaker. And I will read you the inside flap. In a life that spanned nearly a century and witnessed some of the most momentous events in American history, Elizabeth Hobbs Keckley was born a slave. She earned her freedom by the skill of her needle and won the friendship of First Lady Mary Todd Lincoln with her devotion. In her sweeping historical novel, the best-selling author illuminates the extraordinary relationship between the two women, beginning in the hallowed halls of the White House during the trials of the Civil War, and enduring almost, but not quite, to the end of Mrs. Lincoln's days. Elizabeth Keckley made her professional reputation in Washington, D.C. by expertly fashioning dresses for the city's elite. Among them, Mrs. Jefferson Davis, Mrs. Robert E. Lee, and Mrs. Robert E. Lee. In March 1861, Mrs. Lincoln chose her from among numerous applicants to be her personal modiste, responsible for creating the First Lady's beautiful gowns and dressing her for important occasions. In this role, Elizabeth Keckley was quickly drawn into the intimate life of the Lincoln family, a clear-eyed but compassionate witness to the events within the private quarters of the White House. Ever loyal to the Union, Elizabeth Keckley hid her fears when her only son, George, enlisted with the 1st Missouri Volunteers, and his courage in battle inspired her to bold new endeavors. When tens of thousands of former slaves sought refuge in Washington, she cared for them in their squalid camps, taught them sewing and other necessary skills, and founded Contraband Relief Association, to which Mary Todd Lincoln was a generous contributor, and worked tirelessly to raise money so that the struggling freedmen could embrace their newfound liberty. All the while, Elizabeth Keckley supported the First Lady through years of war, political strife, and devastating personal losses, even as she endured heartbreaking tragedies of her own. So Mrs. Lincoln is undoubtedly going to be a side character, but very important. And that's unfortunate. I missed that. And this one is 350 pages. So, I'm interested. It's probably not the first one I'm going to pick up of hers, but I'm definitely interested. Okay, last recommendation for this prompt would be, same author, Mrs. Grant and Madame Jules. Another one I picked up from Better World Books. I think I have read this read the inside flap of this previously, but it was a while ago. This one is 384 pages. In 1844, shy Missouri belle Julia Dent met General Ulysses S. Grant, a brilliant horseman and reluctant soldier. The two fell deeply in love, but 4 years passed before Julia's father permitted them to wed. The groom's abolitionist family refused to attend the ceremony. Despite her new husband's objections, Julia kept her slave, another Julia, known as Jewel. Since childhood, they had been companions and confidants. Julia was gifted with prophetic dreams, which Jewel helped her interpret. Julia secretly taught Jewel how to read, while Jewel became her vision-impaired mistress's eyes to the world. But beneath the gathering clouds of war, the stark distinctions between mistress and slave inevitably strained and altered their tenuous friendship. As Ulysses rose through the ranks of the Union Army during the Civil War, he often summoned Julia and their 4 children to join him at military headquarters. The general's wife rarely failed to bring her favorite maid along, tearing Jewel from her own beloved husband, whom she had secretly married in defiance of law. Both women risked certain danger as they traveled to and from the field of war, but for Jewel, the hazards of travel also brought knowledge and opportunity. Even as Julia Grant championed the Union cause and advocated for suffering women on both sides of the brutal conflict, she continued to hold Jewel a slave behind federal lines until the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation inspired Jewel to make a daring bid for freedom. Mrs. Grant and Madame Jewel is the first novel to chronicle the singular relationship between these two remarkable women bound by light and shadows. I need to read. Okay. Next up. Oh, I gotta grab stuff. Hang on. Next up is June 14th, which is Flag Day in the United States. And it is next to impossible to find flag fiction that is adult in nature on this particular historical point. I have one book that I found, and it's not even adult, and it's nonfiction. But here you go. It is by Tim Grove. It is middle grade. It is Star Spangled, the story of a flag, a battle, and an American anthem. The little known and inspiring story behind the national anthem and the Stars and Stripes. Oh Say Can You See begins one of the most recognizable songs in the U.S. Originally a poem by Francis Scott Key, the national anthem tells the story of the American flag rising high above a fort after a night of intense battle during the War of 1812. But there is much more to the story than what is sung at ball games. What was this battle about? Whose bombs were bursting, and why were rockets glaring? Who sewed those broad stripes and bright stars? Why were free black soldiers fighting on both sides? Who was Francis Scott Key anyway? And how did he end up with such a close view? Star Spangled tells the story from the perspectives of different real players, both American and British, of this obscure but important battle from American history. The book includes an author's note, a timeline, a glossary, endnotes, a bibliography, and an index. It may be 176 pages of a middle grade nonfiction, but it actually sounds like a book that all of us should read. Okay, next up would be June 15th. And this year, June 15th, is Father's Day. And I have pulled some fictional fathers to discuss. And I am going to go pull some books, and I'll be right back. Okay, if you hear chatting in the background, Pickles is on his tree, so. Okay, I tried to go pull books, and apparently I have them so perfectly put away I can't lay my hands on several of them, so I'm just going to read you the description from Goodreads. And as a side commentary, it is increasingly difficult to find fathers and or father figures portrayed in a healthy and loving manner in fiction. It's actually disturbing. They're disappearing from the pages of fiction. And that is not healthy for anyone. Okay. First up is a father figure. That is The Blood of Elves by Andrzej Sapkowski. This is the first book in the Witcher series. I have read this. I absolutely love this. This is Slavic, particularly Polish fantasy. It is definitely dark. However, I absolutely love this entire series. And I will read you the blurb. For over a century, humans, dwarves, gnomes, and elves have lived together in relative peace. But times have changed. The uneasy peace is over, and now the races are fighting once again. The only good elf, it seems, is a dead elf. Geralt of Rivia, the cunning assassin known as the Witcher, has been waiting for the birth of a prophesied child. This child has the power to change the world, for good or for evil. As the threat of war hangs over the land, the child is hunted for her extraordinary powers. It will become Geralt's responsibility to protect them all, and the Witcher never accepts defeat. Geralt is a definite father figure in this entire series. Ciri is the prophesied child, and I enjoy the video games, but the books are superb. Okay, next up is Sophie's World by Josten Garder. I started this. This was published in 1991. I started this on a business trip and never finished it, and somehow lost my copy on the way home. It was a very long business trip, and I need to pick it up again and reread it because I was fascinated by this book. I will read you the blurb. One day, 14-year-old Sophie Amundsen comes home from school to find in her mailbox 2 notes with one question on each. Who are you? And where does the world come from? From that irresistible beginning, Sophie becomes obsessed with the questions that take her far beyond what she knows of her Norwegian village. Through these letters, she enrolls in a kind of correspondence course, covering Socrates to Sartre, with a mysterious philosopher, while receiving letters addressed to another girl. Who is Hildy? And why does her mail keep turning up? To unravel this riddle, Sophie must use the philosophy she is learning, but the truth turns out to be far more complicated than she could have imagined. I absolutely love this book. It won a bunch of awards when it was released. It is obviously translated from the Norwegian, and it is just a beautiful exploration of philosophy. Okay, next up, this has been published. This is a new release. It was published in April of 2025. That is Murder by Cheesecake by Rachel Ekstrom Courage. It is the first novel in the Golden Girls Cozy Mystery series. And I will read you the blurb. When Dorothy's obnoxious date is found dead in a hotel freezer, it not only ruins a gorgeous cheesecake, but threatens the elaborate St. Olaf-themed wedding Rose is hosting. Things are heating up, and not just because of Blanche's hot flashes. Rose's cousin is eloping to Miami, and Rose is playing host. If she can't balance the groom's family's snobbery against the traditional St. Olaf wedding week guidelines, her hometown may never accept her cousin again. Dorothy quickly realizes she needs a date with whom she can exchange wedding-related wisecracks. Turning to a newfangled VHS dating service, she believes she's found the ideal conversationalist. Unfortunately, what looks good on TV can actually be a total jerk in real life. It seems she'll just have to enjoy the company of Sophia, Blanche, and whomever Blanche has targeted for a hookup. As the girls all pitch in, Rose is thrilled with the tea and fish themed kickoff event is perfect. Not a herring out of place. That is, until Dorothy's date is found dead, face planted in an otherwise scrumptious looking cheesecake. With every guest a suspect, especially Dorothy, and a marriage on the line, the four besties must ID the real killer and get the should-be happy couple down the aisle and make sure nobody from St. Olaf gets lost in the wilds of Miami. It's up to the Golden Girls to sleuth out a way for friendship and love to win the day. And I do not know why this is filed under a father fiction. I'm leaving it in here just because it sounds interesting and I need to be amused. Okay. Next up, Beach Music by Pat Conroy. It was published in 1995. It is 800 pages long. An American expatriate in Rome unearths his family legacy in this sweeping novel by the acclaimed author of The Prince of Tides and The Great Santini. A Southerner living abroad, Jack McCall is scarred by tragedy and betrayal. His desperate desire to find peace after his wife's suicide draws him into a painful, intimate search for the one haunting secret in his family's past that can heal his anguished heart. Spanning 3 generations and 2 continents, from the contemporary ruins of the American South to the ancient ruins of Rome, from the unutterable horrors of the Holocaust to the lingering trauma of Vietnam, Beach Music sings with life's pain and glory. It is a novel of lyric intensity and searing truth, and another masterpiece among Pat Conroy's legendary and beloved novels. Okay, next up. This is the 3rd book in the series. I have read, much further than this. This one was published in 1989. That is Black Cherry Blues by James Lee Burke. It is the 3rd book in the Dave Robichaux series. And a mass market paperback, it is 416 novels. I'm sure I've read this one. Winner of the Edgar Award for the best novel, Evil crept into Dave Robichaux's Bayou world one night and destroyed the woman he loved. Now it's threatening the life of his innocent child. Framed for murder, the Cajun ex-cop is traveling far from his Louisiana home to clear his name, to help a friend, to save what remains of his family, seeking justice and revenge in the big sky country of Montana. That one's actually got a father mention. I'm telling you, it is very hard. I have a physical copy of this book. Can I lay my hands on the physical copy of this book? No. Heaven knows where it is. That is The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. This is the 1st book in the Farseer trilogy. And it kicks off the legend of Fritz. And this is another father figure book. Fitz is a royal bastard, cast out into the world with only his magical link with animals for solace and companionship. But when Fitz is adopted into the royal household, he must give up his old ways and learn a new life. Weaponry, scribing, courtly manners, and how to kill a man secretly. Meanwhile, raiders ravage the coast, leaving the people forged and soulless. As Fitz grows towards manhood, he will have to face his first terrifying mission, a task that poses as much risk to himself as it does to his target. Fitz is a threat to the throne, but he may also be the key to the future of the kingdom. This book is fantastic. We all know Chrissy is absolutely obsessed with Robin Hobb for very good reason, I might add. They are beautiful books. Okay, another father figure. Because the actual fathers in this story are horrific human beings. And I thought I still had a copy of these books. Apparently I have already redonated them to the library. That is An Alchemy of Mask and Mirrors by Curtis Craddock. It is the first book in the Risen Kingdoms trilogy, and it is clean and, for lack of a better term, peaceful fantasy. And I will read you the back. And it is swashbuckler fantasy at that. In a world of soaring continents and bottomless skies, where burgeoning new science lifts skyships into the cloud-strewn heights, and ancient blood-borne sorceries cling to a fading glory, Princess Isabel de Zephyrs is about to be married to a man she has barely heard of, the second son of a dying king in an empire collapsing into civil war. Born without the sorcery that is her birthright, but with a perspicacious intellect, Isabel believes her marriage will stave off disastrous conflict and bring her opportunity and influence. But the last two women betrothed to this prince were murdered, and a sorcerer assassin is bent on making Isabel the third. Aided and defended by her loyal musketeer, Jean-Claude, Isabel plunges into a great maze of prophecy, intrigue, and betrayal, where everyone wears a mask of glamour and lies. Step by dangerous step, she unravels the lies of her enemies and discovers a truth more perilous than any deception. This book is absolutely fantastic. Jean-Claude is absolutely the father figure in this book throughout the entire series. Isabel is a heroine that uses her head. And she does not resort to violence to work her way out of the situation. She thinks herself through possibilities. And I absolutely love this story. I absolutely love this story. Okay, up next would be The General's Daughter by Nelson DeMille. This is the first book in the Paul Brenner series. I listened to this on Audible. It is fantastic. Like anything and everything Nelson DeMille writes. It is military fiction. It is a thriller. It was published in 1992, and it comes in at 464 pages in mass market paperback format. I will read you the blurb. Captain Ann Campbell is a West Point graduate, the daughter of legendary General Fightin' Joe Campbell. She is the pride of Fort Hadley until, one morning, her body is found, naked and bound, on the firing range. Paul Brenner is a member of the Army's elite undercover investigative unit and the man in charge of this politically explosive case. Teamed with a rape specialist, Cynthia Sunhill, with whom he once had a tempestuous, doomed affair, Brenner is about to learn just how many people were sexually, emotionally, and dangerously involved with the Army's Golden Girl, and how the neatly pressed uniforms and honor codes of the military hide a corruption as rank as Ann Campbell's shocking secret life. I thoroughly loved this story. I loved this entire series. Is it going to be for everybody? No. But, oh, they're so good on audio. Okay, this is a recent read. That is For Steam and Country by John Delarose. This is young adult, clean steampunk fantasy. And the father figure comes in at the end of the book. Possibly. I don't want to say because that would spoil it. But if you've seen my review, you already know. To save her homeland, she must rescue her father from certain doom. But will it be enough? The kingdom of Ruslandia needs Zarya to take command of the world's only airship to help stave off the bloodthirsty Wyvernth army. To make matters worse, the enemy invaders have tapped into supernatural forces with incredible destructive power. Zarya must fight a monster of a man, and worse, or everyone's lives will be in perilous danger. It was absolutely fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. I am going to read more of the series, and it is clean. You can easily hand it to a middle grader or a young adult. Our protagonist is 16. There are no concerns in that book whatsoever. And last up would be Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. It's impossible not to talk about fathers in fiction and not mention Matthew Cuthbert. After all, he buys Anne a dress with puff sleeves. What more could any girl want, right? So, those are the recommendations for father's fiction. I'm sure I have missed some, but, you know, immediately comes to mind would be Pa and the Little House series, but you get the point. Okay, next up would be the 20th of June. And that this year is summer solstice. So for summer solstice, there's not a lot of books that are just summer solstice related. So what I did is I went and I picked books I want, that are beach reads or summer reads that I'm interested in. So I'm just going to share them with you all. And I do not believe I've read any of these. If I have, I will let you know. So first up this is on my Kindle. I own this. Happily Ever Afters at Bee's Bookshop. A heartwarming and uplifting romance by Sarah Hope. Welcome to Nettleford, a small but bustling town in the heart of the Cotswolds. With her divorce anniversary looming, that's a mouthful. The last thing Bea Thompson, owner of Nettlefield's charming bookshop, needs is to play teacher to a newbie resident and shopkeeper, Scott Harrison. But when Bee's strong-armed into helping the gorgeous newcomer Scott learn the ropes, she's forced to make the most of a bad situation. As Bea and Scott reluctantly spend more time together, an unexpected connection begins to form. Just as Bea starts to wonder if love after divorce is possible, a family crisis brings chaos to her once peaceful sanctuary. With her sister's family, and even her ex suddenly under her roof, Bee's new life is turned upside down. Will Scott prove to be the plot twist Bea needs to heal her heart and write her own happily ever after? Or will Bee's second chance at love be lost among the shelves of her charming bookshop? It's a whopping 146 pages. So for me, that doesn't even qualify as a beach read. It's more like a afternoon tea break read. Next up would be The Royal Windsor Secret by Christine Wells. This is 352 pages. I own this on Kindle. And this is definitely beach read material for me. Could she be the secret daughter of the Prince of Wales? In this dazzling novel by the author of The Sisters of Resistance, a young woman seeks to discover the truth about her mysterious past. Cleo Davenport has heard the murmured conversations that end abruptly the second she walks into a room. Told she was an orphan, she knows the rumor that her father is none other than the Prince of Wales, heir to the British throne. And at her childhood home at Cairo's Shepherd Hotel, where royals, rulers, and the wealthy live, they even call her the princess. But her life is turned upside down when she turns 17. Sent to London under the chaperonage of her very proper aunt, she's told it's time to learn manners and to make her debut. But Cleo's life cannot be confined to a ballroom. She longs for independence and a career as a jewelry designer for Cartier. But she cannot move forward until she finds out about her past. Determined to unlock the truth, Cleo travels from London back to Cairo and then to Paris, where her investigations take a shocking turn into the world of the Parisian demi-monde and a high-class courtesan whose scandalous affair with the young Prince of Wales threatened to bring down the British monarchy long before anyone had heard of Wallis Simpson. Yeah. That's just going to be filled with tea and drama. I need to read it. Okay, I own this one too. This is The French Cookery School by Caroline James. I love this cover. I love this cover. It is 99 cents on Kindle at the moment, and it is 385 pages. Okay, the recipe for a perfect summer. Step 1, mix together a group of mature students. Step 2, add in a handsome host. Step 3, season with a celebrity chef. Step 4, bring it to the boil at a luxurious cooking school in France. Waltho Williams has no idea what he's letting himself in for when he opens the doors to his beautiful French home, La Maison de Paradis. But with dwindling funds, a cookery school seems like the perfect business plan. Divorcee caterer Caroline needs to be able to stand on her own 2 feet, while warm-hearted Fran hopes to help her beloved husband fulfill his lifelong dream. And for food journalist Sally, it's a PR opportunity, until a certain celebrity chef gets under her skin. But will this eclectic group be a recipe for success, or will the mismatched relationships sink like a souffle? Whip out an apron, grab a wooden spoon, and take a culinary trip to La Maison de Paradis. Yeah, that's definitely a beach read. It's definitely a beach read. I own this one as well. It is the first book in the Chateau series. That is Summer at the Chateau by Annabelle French. It is 364 pages. A newly single girl. A tall, dark, and handsome stranger. A chateau that keeps bringing them together. What could go wrong? When Lizzie Summers is jilted at the altar, she is left completely heartbroken. But then she receives news that she has inherited a beautiful chateau in Provence, and it seems like the perfect escape. Upon arrival, she discovers she is now the proud owner of a crumbling ruin. A decrepit chateau with nothing but dust and a goat for company. Intending to head straight back to the airport, Lizzie instead gets caught in a freakish summer storm and finds herself trudging through a vineyard for help. Bedraggled and furious, she enlists the help of her nearest neighbor, the enchanting Luke. Perhaps she should stay and mend the chateau and her broken heart. After all, the perfect feel-good romantic comedy that will leave you falling head over heels. I need to read this. I'm really in the mood for a beach read. I am really in the mood for a beach read. Okay. This is The Enchanted April by Elizabeth van Arnhem. This is a classic. And I will read you the back. I love the cover of the actual book. The cover of the Kindle book is sad and pathetic. Mrs. Wilkins and Mrs. Arbuthnot, cowed or neglected by their husbands, make a daring plan. They will have a holiday. Leaving a drab and rainy London one April and arriving on the shores of the Mediterranean, they discover a flower-filled paradise of beauty, warmth, and leisure. Joined by the beautiful Lady Caroline and the domineering Mrs. Fisher, also in flight from the burdens of their daily lives, the four women proceed to transform themselves and their prospects. It is 304 pages. I am not sure when it was published. I want to say the 1930s. But I am not sure. Okay. Next up. Oh, I gotta go grab that. That's a physical copy of the book. Okay. Next up, and do not judge the title of the book by the title of this cover. I listened to this on Audible. It is fantastic. I listened to this when it was released. So, 2002. That is Good in Bed by Jennifer Weiner. In print length, it's 400 pages. This book was transformative for me. I don't know a better way to put it. For 28 years, things have been tripping along nicely for Candy Shapiro. Sure, her mother has come charging out of the closet, and her father has long since dropped out of her world. But she loves her friends, her rat terrier Nifkin, and her job as a pop culture reporter for the Philadelphia Examiner. She's even made a tenuous peace with her plus-size body. But the day she opens up a national women's magazine and sees the words, "loving a larger woman," above her ex-boyfriend's byline, Candy is plunged into misery and the most amazing year of her life. From Philadelphia to Hollywood and back home again, she charts a new course for herself, mourning her losses, facing her past, and figuring out who she is and who she can become. This book was... I loved every moment I spent with that book. I loved every moment I spent with that book. Okay. I love the cover of this book. I do not own it. I have read nothing by this author. This was published in 2002. That is The Patron Saint of Second Chances by Christine Simon. And I will read you the back. I love the cover. The self-appointed mayor of a tiny Italian village is determined to save his hometown no matter the cost in this charming, hilarious, and heartwarming debut novel. A vacuum repairman and self-appointed mayor of Prometto, Italy, population 212, Signor Speranza has a problem. Unless he can come up with 70,000 euros to fix the town's pipes, the Water Commission will shut off the water to the village, and all its residents will be forced to disperse. So in a bid to boost tourism and revenue, he spreads a harmless rumor that movie star Dante Rinaldi will be filming his next project nearby. Unfortunately, the plan works a little too well, and soon everyone in town wants to be part of the fictional film. The village butcher will throw in some money if Speranza can find roles for his 15 enormous sons. Speranza's wistfully adrift daughter reveals an unexpected interest in stage makeup. And his hapless assistant, Smilezzo, volunteers a screenplay that's not so secretly based on his undying love for the film's leading lady. To a surprise and considerable consternation, Speranza realizes the only way to keep up the ruse is to make the movie for real. As the entire town becomes involved, even the village priest invests, Signor Speranza starts to think he might be able to pull this off. But what happens when Dante Rinaldi doesn't show up? Or worse, what if he does? It's 304 pages. It sounds like a complete and total hoot. And it sounds like something I need to read. Okay. Next up, I think I own this on Audible. That is Next Year in Havana by Chanel Cleaton. It is 394 pages. It was published in 2018. After the death of her beautiful grandmother, a Cuban-American woman travels to Havana, where she discovers the roots of her identity and unearths a family secret hidden since the revolution. Havana, 1958. The daughter of a sugar baron, 19-year-old Elisa Perez is part of Cuba's high society, where she is largely sheltered from the country's growing political unrest, until she embarks on a clandestine affair with a passionate revolutionary. Miami, 2017. Freelance writer Marisol Ferreira grew up hearing romantic stories of Cuba from her late grandmother Elise, who was forced to flee with her family during the revolution. Elisa's last wish was for Marisol to scatter her ashes in the country of her birth. Arriving in Havana, Marisol comes face to face with the contrast of Cuba's tropical, timeless beauty and its perilous political climate. When more family history comes to light, and Marisol finds herself attracted to a man with secrets of his own, she'll need to learn the lessons of her grandmother's past to help her understand the true meaning of courage. That's beach read. You know, a video is too long when I start to lose my voice, but is that going to stop me from talking about books? No. No, it's not. Okay. 2 more electronic books, and then I have a couple of physical recommendations for beach reads. This is Under a Southern Sky by Christy Woodson Harvey. I'm very interested in reading her. It's 400 pages. It was published in 2021. And I'm just going to read you the top blurb. 2 childhood friends discover that love and family can be found in unconventional ways in this timely, moving novel from the USA Today best-selling author of the beautifully southern, evocative Peachtree Bluff series, which I just mentioned in my Southern Charms Readathon recommendations. I think that was the one it was mentioned in. And I am looking forward to experiencing her writing. Okay. Last electronic recommendation for this is Last Summer at the Golden Hotel by Elisa Friedland. It's 378 pages. It was published in 2021. In its heyday, the Golden Hotel was the crown jewel of the hotter-than-hot Catskills vacation scene. For more than 60 years, the Goldman and Weingold families, best friends and business partners, have presided over this glamorous resort, which served as a second home for well-heeled guests and celebrities. But the Catskills are not what they used to be. And neither is the relationship between the Goldmans and the Weingolds. As the facilities and management begin to fall apart, a tempting offer to sell forces the 2 families together again to make a heart-wrenching decision. Can they save their beloved Golden, or is it too late? Long-buried secrets emerge. New dramas and financial scandal erupt. And everyone, from the traditional grandparents to the millennial grandchildren, want to say in the hotel's future. Business and pleasure clash in this fast-paced, hilarious, nostalgia-filled story, where the hotel owners rediscover the magic of a bygone era of nonstop fun as they grapple with what may be their last resort. Okay, a couple of physical recommendations. First up would be The Nature of a Lady by Rosanna M. White. This is the first book in the Secrets of the Isles series. I have read this. I have loved it immensely. And this is just a beautiful, summery kind of read. This is a book I am currently reading. I know I've talked about it recently, so I'm not going to read the description. That is A Very French Affair by Sue Roberts. It's not a big, thick chunker. It's fast. In fact, it's so fast that the print is rather large. However, what I've read so far, I am thoroughly enjoying, and, well, there's a beach on the cover. And this arrived on my doorstep yesterday, and it's the third book in the series. I have listened to the other two. I just won this in a Goodreads win, and I'm glad it arrived when I did, because I almost bought it on Kindle. I highly recommend the audio, by the way. I highly, highly recommend the audio. That is A Fashionably French Murder by Colleen Kimbridge. Even though this book takes place in winter, I am going to devour it here shortly. It is under 200, it's just over 250 pages, and I will read you a little bit of the blurb. If there's one art the French have mastered as well as fine cuisine, it's haute couture. Tabitha and Julia are already accustomed to sampling the delights of the former. Now fashion is returning to the forefront in Paris as the somber hues of wartime are replaced by vibrant colors and ultra-feminine silhouettes influenced by Christian Dior's new look. Tabitha and Julia join a friend for a private showing at an exclusive fashion atelier, Maison Lynette. The event goes well, but when Tabitha returns later that evening to search for a lost glove, she finds the lights still on, and the courtier dead, strangled by a length of lace. The shopman suspects that a jealous rival, perhaps Dior himself, committed the crime. Tabitha dismisses the idea, but when another body is found, it's apparent that someone is targeting the employees of Maison Lynette. Meanwhile, Tabitha's grand-père and Uncle Raph are in the midst of their own design-related fracas as they squabble over how to decorate their new restaurant. And there are strange break-ins at a nearby shoe store. But are the crimes related? It's up to Tabitha to don her investigative hat and find answers before someone commits another fashion faux pas. This series captures Julia Child so well. I adore that cozy mystery series. Okay. Next up, 2 more days, is the 22nd of June. Which is National Kissing Day. And you know, I had to come up with romance books to discuss National Kissing Day. How could I not? So, let's talk about them. First up is Falling for French Kisses by Elsie Woods. This is the first in the Falling in Paris series. I got this on a Stuff Your Kindle day in 2023. And I'm just going to read you a little bit. 2 rules for surviving. Don't mess with the champagne. And never fall for your gorgeous hunk of a French boss. But sometimes rules are made to be broken. Freshest face in the city of love. Doesn't speak the language. And I can't make an espresso to save my life. What was I thinking? Stepping on that Paris-bound plane. Olivier Dubois, entitled French billionaire and culinary playboy, is certainly not the forgiving type. So when I make a blunder at his restaurant, which results in a debt the size of the Eiffel Tower, he gives me two choices. I can either pay up, or I can cater to his crabby grandmother's every whim. Yep. I need to know. It says it's a clean romance. It's 268 pages. You know, I got it for free. What's the worst that can happen? Okay, next up, I own this, is My Kind of Happy by Kathy Brambley. It is 450 pages, and it is a contemporary romance. I think flowers are sunshine for the soul. Flowers have always made Fern smile. She treasures memories of her beloved grandmother's floristry and helping her to arrange beautiful blooms that brought such joy to their recipients. But ever since a family tragedy a year ago, Fern has been in search of her own contentment. When a chance discovery inspires her to start a happiness wish list, it seems that Fern might just have found her answer. Sometimes the scariest path can be the most rewarding. So is Fern ready to take the risk and step into the unknown? And what kind of happiness might she find if she does? Yep, that's a good romance, kissy, beach read kind of book. And I thought this one was next up. I think the next book is a perfect mix of romance, historical fiction, flag waving, June. That is Earl Grafton and the Traitor by Angela E. Johnson. It is a Regency historical romance. It is the first book in the Fernley family series. It is a whopping 210 pages, and it's a clean romance. When love arrives in the form of an enemy, who knew it would be covered in mud? Baxter Fernley, the Earl of Grafton, takes his duty as a member of the Ton with the utmost sincerity, even if King George III has lost his mind. As a respected member of the peerage and the local magistrate, his life has order and meaning until an unruly American woman with muddy skirts falls at his feet in what he believes to be an attempt at trapping him in marriage. Briar Kensington thought England was boring until her impolite neighbor knocked her down and threw unfounded accusations at her like a mudslinging fool. When she overhears the man's claim that she might be the cause of King George's state of insanity, Briar decides she wants nothing to do with him, even if it was said in jest. Baxter despises almost everything about his traitorous American neighbor. Everything except her beauty and her strong will. Briar finds Baxter to be an infuriating man without any common sense, even if she does admire his strength of character and loyalty to family and duty. When they agree to be civil, their awkward first meeting is forgotten, and these enemies find themselves hoping for love. It just sounds like a quick, easy, beachy, patriotic read. Here's another one I love the cover of. I own this on Kindle. It's the first book in the series. It is by Darcy Bolin. That is Summer at Conweena Cove. And I love the cover. In a gorgeous Cornish village, two broken-hearted people fall head over heels. But can the magic of Conweena Cove heal the hurt of the past? A feel-good summer romance, perfect for fans of Philippa Ashley and Jenny Hale. Eve has a glittering career, a loving husband, and a future. But a terrible twist of fate means she loses it all. and with nowhere left to turn, she flees to her Aunt Mary's home in Cornwall. The last thing on her mind is romance, until she meets Jack. Jack has seen the worst things people can do to each other, and realized he is better off alone. He settles in Corwina Cove and saves his affections for the rescue dogs he cares for. But when Eve arrives in the village, he can't deny his attraction to her. Eve and Jack are both scared to trust, but when they come together, it's impossible for either to ignore their feelings. Can they put fear aside and learn to love again? It's 305 pages and was published in 2017. Okay, next up. Another one I love the cover of. This one is on Kindle Unlimited. That is High Tides and Summer Skies by Jennifer Bonet. I love her writing. The cover alone is enough for me to pick it up. And I'm just going to read you a little bit. As time ebbs and flows over the summer, both Katie Teague and her godmother, Maddie Cranford, discover their lives at a crossroads. Maddie, shackled to the family wool shop for over 50 years, feels life has passed her by. She dreams of seeing the world and shaking off a lifetime of regrets. When Katie is made redundant, Maddie seizes the moment and asks Katie to move back to her hometown of Dartmouth and breathe new life into the rundown wool shop, and to surprise Katie. And, to her surprise, Katie agrees. As Katie settles back into the rhythm of Devon life and renovating the shop, Maddie sets off on a luxury cruise. But the arrival of Katie's ex-boyfriend with an unexpected dream job offer, threatens to unsettle the calm waters. Will she sacrifice the shop and Maddie's happiness, or her own career? Yeah, sign me up. I need to read it. Okay, next up, I own this one too. That is Windcross by Martha Keyes. It is the first book in the Families of Dorset series. It's 250 pages. And like always with Martha's books, it's a clean romance. And as you can tell from the cover, it's historical fiction. Kate Matchcombe needs a fortune or a husband. She wants neither. With a tainted inheritance in the balance, she receives one offer to become a scoundrel's mistress and another offer of marriage of convenience. Before resigning herself to a choice, she accepts the invitation to visit a childhood friend, considering it a last hurrah before embarking on a bleak future. The visit goes sideways when she falls for the gentleman friend her friend intends to marry, a man well out of Kate's league, and one who seems to be hiding something. Smuggling has overtaken the country, and it seems that everyone is complicit in the trade that killed her father. One by one, her options dwindle as she struggles against her strengthening feelings for a duplicitous man, a determination not to hurt her friend, and keeping the promise she made long ago, to stand up to the people who killed her father. Yeah, I need to read that too. Okay. That is it for that day. Okay, last day is the 30th of June, and that is International Asteroid Day. And I know we're all going to be surprised that I came up with some science fiction books. So let's do the physical books first. Asteroids definitely factor in the Expanse series. This is the first book in the series, Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. This is an absolute joy. It is space opera at its finest. There's a mystery. It's just a joy. They read quickly. I absolutely love them. I absolutely love them. Okay. And then we have the second book in the, what is the name of this series? Hang on. I know the name of this series. I need to make sure I have it right. Yeah, it's the Penumbra universe. I won this from Goodreads, and I haven't read it yet. It is the follow-up to Mr. Penumbra's 24-hour bookstore, which I read last year. That is Moonbound. And I will read you the back of this one. It is 13,000 years from now. A lot has happened, and yet a lot is still very familiar. Ariel is a boy in a remote village under a wizard's rule. Like many adventurers before him, Ariel is called to explore a world full of eye-popping discoveries and challenges. Unknown enemies, a mission to rescue the world, a girl. Here, as they say, be dragons. But none of this happens before Ariel encounters an entity from an earlier civilization. A sentient, sensitive artificial intelligence with a special perspective on all of human history, who becomes both Ariel's greatest ally and our narrator. So, I am sure there are asteroids in this book. Otherwise, it would not have come up in my search. 415 pages. 18 pages. Yeah, 15 pages. I enjoyed Mr. Penumbra's universe very much, so this was an easy pickup and recommendation. And I believe those are... He has a lot of books out. Cool. Okay. Back to the hard recommendations. This one I'm very interested in. That is Delta 5 by Daniel Suarez. And it is a techno thriller about asteroid mining. Mars. 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 Seems that NASA and the public can think of little else about space travel. There have been more than 50 missions to long-dead Mars, but no more than a handful to all the ice moons of the gas giants. And a few of those moons show signs of life that may be present there. Of course, the red planet is closest to Earth, while the moons of Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune orbit the Sun hundreds of millions or billions of miles from us. Still, the greatest gain for humanity in the solar system may lie not on any of the 8 planets or the 219 moons, but on some of the more than 800,000 asteroids. Not to establish colonies like those fantasized for Luna and Mars, but as rich sources of water, metals, and chemicals for our planet as we approach the limits of Earth's resources. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this book, and I very, very much need to read it. Next up is Hammered by Elizabeth Bear. This is the first book in the Jenny Case trilogy. It is cyberpunk science fiction. And I will read you the blurb. Once Jenny Casey was somebody's daughter. Once she was somebody's enemy. Now the former Canadian Special Forces warrior lives on the hellish streets of Hartford, Connecticut in the year 2062. Racked with pain, hiding from the government she served, running with a crime lord so she can save her life or two. Jenny is a month shy of 50, and her artificially reconstructed body has started to unravel. But she is far from forgotten. A government scientist needs the perfect subject for a high-stakes project and has Jenny in his sights. Suddenly, Jenny Casey is a pawn in a furious battle waged in the corridors of the internet on the streets of battered cities and the complex wirings of her half man-made nervous system. And she needs to gain control of the game before a brave new future spins completely out of control. 352 pages. Okay, I own this one on Kindle, and I have not read anything by him. This is Red Moon by Kim Stanley Robinson, and it's 446 pages. American Fred Fredericks is making his first trip. His purpose to install a communication system for China's Lunar Science Foundation. But hours after his arrival, he witnesses a murder and is forced into hiding. It is also the first visit for celebrity travel reporter Tao Xia. He has contacts and influence, but he too will find that the moon can be a perilous place for any traveler. Finally, there is Chan Qi. She is the daughter of the Minister of Finance and without a doubt a person of interest to those in power. She is on the moon for reasons of her own. When she attempts to return to China in secret, the events that unfold will change everything on the moon and on the earth. That sounds like a very good beach read. Okay, next up is a book I am very, very interested in. That is Pandora's Star by Peter F. Hamilton. It is the first book in the Commonwealth saga. It is 768 pages. I'm only going to read a little bit here. The year is 2380. And the Inner Solar Commonwealth, a sphere of stars some 400 light years in diameter, contains more than 600 worlds interconnected by a web of transport tunnels known as wormholes. At the furthest edge of the Commonwealth, astronomer Dudley Bowes observes the impossible. Over 1,000 light years away, a star vanishes. It does not go supernova. It does not collapse into a black hole. It simply disappears. Since the location is too distant to reach by wormhole, a faster-than-light starship, the Second Chance, is dispatched to learn what has occurred and whether it represents a threat. In command is Wilson Kim, a 5-time rejuvenated ex-NASA pilot whose glory days are centuries behind him. Yeah, I need to lay my hands on that book. Okay. I own this entire series now. That is The Last Policeman by Ben H. Winters. It is the first book in the trilogy of the same name. I talked about this recently in my Q1 Kindle purchases. I will link that in the description box down below. And definitely need to read the next book. It's by Neil Stephenson. As you know, I want to read his entire backlist. And that is Seven Eves. It is 872 pages. It was published in 2015. And the tagline says it all. It's enough for me. Excuse me. What would happen if the world were ending? A catastrophic event renders the Earth a ticking time bomb. In a feverish race against the inevitable, nations around the globe band together to devise an ambitious plan to ensure the survival of humanity far beyond our atmosphere in outer space. Yep, okay. That's enough. Okay, last book in what has become an extraordinarily long video. And I definitely need to read this. It is the first book in the Culture series by Ian M. Banks. And that is Consider Phlebas. And it is 462 pages. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this book. The war raged across the galaxy. Billions had died. Billions more were doomed. Moons, Planets and the very stars themselves face destruction. Cold-blooded and brutal, and worse, random. The Idridians fought for their faith, the culture for its moral right to exist. Principles were at stake. There could be no surrender. Within the cosmic conflict, an individual crusade, deep within the fabled labyrinth on a barren world, a planet of the dead prescribed to the mortals, lay a fugitive mind. Both the culture and the Idridians sought it. It was the fate of Horza, the Changer, and his motley crew of unpredictable mercenaries, human and machine, actually to find it, and with it, their own destruction. I need to read that. Okay, so a lot of books for June. Hopefully something caught your attention. If you think there's something I need to read, leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and I will see you here next month at the Protagonist Pub.